What is the player's needs? Oh, the needs being met. So like, there can be different types of There's different types of players. There's like more I think it's called the Let's have a look there. Battle player types. That's what they're called. Oh, new to UX design. I don't want that. So these are like four main categories of the players and types, and your game should sort of meet. Your game shouldn't really meet all of them because that's just paint yourself quite broadly. So you need to sort of think how you're gonna do it. So maybe like, so you have killers, so which is like not necessarily you don't have to kill people, but this is a competition, so you need to like, yeah, this might be your Fortnite games or I don't know, like League of Legends. Those types of games really heavily target these killer players, and you have like achievers. So I don't know. These are like your achievement hunter people who have to like complete a game just 100%. They might be the speed runners as well. They're not really bothered about what game they're playing, and they don't gain the enjoyment from doing the actions within the game. They just want to beat other people, or even beat the high score, or just unlock like an achievement on Steam that only 1% of people has, and they're not really bothered about what game it is. And then you have games like socializing, so like, I don't know, like VR chat or Rec Room or another VR titles, or like Gary's Mod. Like some people aren't even bothered about the if they're playing like Trouble in Terrorist Town, they're not bothered about winning. They just want to have a laugh, And a lot of board games, really like target this socializing event. And then Explorers, so that these are like your games like Minecraft and a lot of your role playing games, and definitely like your games can target like a few of these or like some briefly, but you need to sort of know your target audience first, or you at least need to acknowledge what your game is, and then that will allow you to target the right audience when you're trying to get reviews from other people. Because there's no point trying to get reviews from people who like achieving, but you're creating an exploration or a social game. So it doesn't really make sense to target those people at all. So with that being said, like let's have a look at like how what we might think, like the who are our play types. And you might think that this is actually a bit pointless to figure out, because you'd be like, oh, well, I'll just figure out afterwards, or I'm just going to make a game and it appeases to whoever. But the importance of figuring out who your play type is allows you to, whatever features you're implementing, it sort of focuses you towards more important, to what gameplay features are actually important. If you're making Call of Duty, you're not going to make vast, huge, open world type levels when people are just bothered about killing each other. That's sort of like the main point I'm trying to make. So who are our player types for our game? So let's have a look. So tanks. Well, what do we? This has to link into this feel, do, think. So with this tank game, are we going to really be doing much? I'm just sort of thinking it is as like a point and click sort of game. So you're just controlling one tank, and the tank that you're controlling is semi-autonomous. So you're not going to be doing too much, perhaps. But you will be thinking a lot. You'll be thinking, well, where shall I invest my scavenging points or my upgrades for my thing quite high? And you're feeling it's probably not going to be that much. Like, we're not going to have a storyline. We're not going to have, like, our characters, they're just going to be tanks. So, the player might get annoyed that they might be losing, or they might be, like, happy that they're winning, but that's pretty much it. So, our game would sort of target, like, the killer, because I believe, and achieving, Oh, I can't even spell it at all. I didn't even have a proper attempt at spelling that. A-N-D, achieving. Right, that looks better. Kills and achieving. And, again, probably why. Because once you've thought of these, it's probably going to come straight out of your head. So why? You... Because you are... Because you're competing against the other robots for, like, to, just generate your offspring, I guess. And then... Achievers, because you will... Because you will be for the game. So this is probably enough for our player engagement right now. We've given ourselves a good justification of... Maybe not a good justification, we give ourselves a justification of why the player would be engaged. It's better than It's better than just like creating a prototype without even thinking this through and thinking how different aspects of your game will link within each other. With your design pillars, with how the challenge cycle works, and with like how the player thinks themselves. If you just start creating for the sake of creating, then you're not really going to get anywhere. So killers and achieving, why? So then, at this point, now that we have a better idea of what our game's going to look like, we need to ask ourselves, like, what does winning look? Winning and losing, I guess. And losing look like. So we've really been concentrating on what you do in the game, but what is the player's like end goal, or their objective? I don't really know the difference between them. You can use aim as well. What does winning and losing look like? I don't know. Let's think. Maybe let's just type it first. One for each category. That'll help us just clear our mind a bit. Oh, I have been drinking as well, so that's fun. So winning. How winning. Maybe if we need to ask ourselves as well, can the game be won? Can I actually be saying like, is there a credits screen? That is very important. You have games like, I don't know, just your competitive games where the match just happens when the time runs out or where you hit a points limit and that's it. Whether or not you've done badly or whether or not you've done good, the outcome is actually sort of the same. Is just the game just ends, you get your points, you might unlock something, rinse, repeat. And that can be said with like not just shooting games, but like games like Pac-Man. But there'll be other games where, say like Civilization, where you win by there's a clear end goal, no matter how long it takes, depending on like say what victory conditions you're using. But if you're just using the domination victory condition in Civilization, you just need to wipe out every other civilization through conquest. And if you don't wipe everybody out and you sort of just stay where you are and repel anybody attacking you, the game is never going to end. But the losing scenario, if you're playing in the domination, is quite clear, is that you lose when your last city gets taken. That's very, two different bits of the spectrum. You can have some games where you just restart and respawn. Again, with Call of Duty, it's like, maybe you don't think of it as winning and losing the entire match, but what does winning sort of, when I say play session, just like as soon as you respawn, consider that the play session. When you lose is when you get shot and killed. That's very simple. But when you win, how are you winning if you never die? Your Call of Duty uses your win streaks or your kill streaks, and that gives people like some sort of like objective to work towards. Like, oh, I need to get the radar and then get the dogs and then get the helicopter. And again, we can ask the same questions for losing. So can game be lost? And then what happens when the game is lost? Like, does it restart from the beginning or from a save point, or just respawn from the current state? So the way I originally pictured our game for like when you're winning is, I don't really know, to be honest. I guess that's a tricky bit. I haven't really thought too much, and that's why I'm creating this design document and why you're all along with the ride with me. Can the game be won? So, is there a credit screen? I honestly been thinking that, like, the game cannot be won. I think there's just something inside me where I just don't like games that there's a finite point. Like, you can say, like, say with Fallout, like, you don't win Fallout or Skyrim, or, they're quite some good games of mine, but as soon as you've finished the main storyline, yeah, you can carry on playing, but there's no point afterwards because there's no longer an objective to the game. And that's part of the challenge thing. The challenge is gone, so then the entire play experience falls apart. So I'm not really seeing it's like there's going to be a win state, because you're just trying to spread your original starting things genes. But even, I don't know how, depending on how the game's balanced, your tank might, or robot or whatever, might take control of the game, take control of like the landscape, the play area straight away. So then the next generation or what have you, you're just going to be competing against just all of your immediate descendants, and you're just going to randomly, the player's going to randomly take possession of one of those. So there cannot be one. Can there be lost? Again, how I said, you sort of maybe heard it what I said, but generations, like, what is winning and losing like? Winning. I'm sort of seeing the game as like a wave-based game. So where each wave is a generation. So then, okay, so maybe that is better. So then maybe not what happens when you win or lose, but then, you know, what defines a generation. So a generation could be set of time, or when, say, 50 or 70% of the robots have replicated, produced. If so, we need to have a good method of teaching, tracking the original robots from their children. So that's slightly difficult, but it's not the end of the world. Let's have a look. So we need to have good methods of same amount of time. Maybe not. When there's 50 of so many robots, maybe not. Maybe just like when the genetic diversity has changed to has dropped to a certain level, then then create a new generation. So like I said earlier, if you just start the game and somehow you've managed to choose the correct upgrades for your robot and then your environment, and then pretty much you just wipe out everybody else but you've been reproducing, then your genetic diversity is going to be really low, and then that will just trigger a new generation. It'll be like, okay, cool, let's start again. Not start again, but let's, reselect. So as the player, you then take control of a new robot. So with that being said, so it's going to, what defines a generation, possibly this. What happens when a new generation begins? So we could say that the robot that player has selected, the robot that the player has, I don't know, maybe let's rewrite this. The player will stop controlling the Beginning of the generation. Oh, bloody love autocorrect. Spell checking. I don't know where I'll be without it. And what happens when a new generation begins? The player will stop controlling their initial robot or the robot they will control at the beginning of the generation and be randomly assigned a robot from their lineage, which is essentially one of their children. I think that's a good way of doing it. Then I've been doing this for quite a while, so I'm gonna upload this to YouTube and edit it and stuff. And if you like it, just tell me that you like me doing these sort of things, and then I'll actually do it a bit more. Because otherwise, I'm probably not gonna bother. That is the hard truth of it. So, let me know if this has actually been useful to you, and put in the comments, or send a carry pigeon to me. I don't know. Of like, if you want me to just cover a different game idea, and then we could sort of like go through it together, all together, and then people can chime in their opinions of what can be changed. But this is probably good enough to get a lot of ideas being generated, because every single time you ask a question, a new feature can actually arise, a new idea they haven't considered. So I think this is a good starting point for a lot of people if you just follow the few main things of just creating an elevator pitch, a bit more of a description, your design pillars, and challenge, mastery, reward. Maybe go through and actually, I didn't bother, but maybe what the player is feeling, thinking of doing when they play the game. And that's probably quite basic, but you have to maybe do like a table, so like when they're killing people, or when they're like competing against other people, what are their emotions? When they're like planting flowers in Stardew Valley, what are they feeling, what they're thinking, what they're doing, that sort of thing. And then try and define who your player type is, and then any feature that you introduce should sort of feed into what type of player type they are. But that's just my sort of basic crash course of game design. Again, let me know if you like it. Dislike it if you dislike it, because then I'll just stop bothering, and everybody will be happy. But apart from that, thank you for listening to me ramble and misspell and slur my speech. But talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.